Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay.
Good.
Life is life, and as they say.
Yes, yes. Tis, I don't know. I was going to say tis the season, but I don't know if it always does it really in the summertime, but we'll see.
Anyways, okay. So let's get into it. Let's get into it because this is a hot topic right now about AI and
Yes,
what we think AI is doing in the workplace.
yes. Oh, we have to say our names. We always forget to tell people who we are.
Uh, I'm Jen Matwawana,
And I am Mel Maloney.
and this is Double Take. So we have different opinions on different things and some similar opinions on some different things. So let's get into this one because this one's kind of hot. This one's kind of hot. Okay. All right. So Mel, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? AI. There's a lot of fear with regards to AI.
Yeah, I would say I don't know if I don't know if the fear is with AI so much as the fear is with change and with difference, right? Like I think AI is the thing, but if we truly dig down into the heart of it, it's change and having to learn something new and all of those pieces. Um, and I think right now, I think one of the biggest fears with it is probably just the unknown, right? Like it's not something. I think if I look at it from a business perspective, businesses, what I'm seeing when I'm talking to my friends who live and breathe this space is that companies are implementing AI strategies because they feel like they have to, but they're not necessarily asking the question of how is this going to, like, what's our goal with this? What are we going to get out of this? So they're making fast decisions as opposed to making the right decisions. And so I think, like any change or new thing, it's just this opportunity right now for people. It's testing, it's showing weaknesses in systems and testing weaknesses in systems.
Yeah. Well, AI has done a lot in terms of speeding things up for people, but I think the fear with regards to AI is that it's replacing people. And so there's a concern, I think, that people are losing their jobs because AI can do it. Now, I am of the belief that it's going to go to a far left or right. What I don't even know what left and right is really, but it's going to go far one way, and then we're going to come back to the human aspect of things. That's my opinion, because that tends to be what we do. We go far one way, and then we realize, oh, wait a second, maybe that wasn't the best idea. Maybe we should come back and do things the old way.
Yeah, and I would say I agree with that in some ways, but I disagree from the perspective of, like, it is similar to the Industrial Revolution, right? Like we never went back to horse and buggies. We never went back to We've moved away from manual labor in a lot of spaces where robots and machines now do things. You don't have people picking and planting by hand in the same way that they used to. So I do think it's an evolution in how work is done. Um, and I don't think we'll come back from that. I think we're about to see that transition now, but similar to all of those times, people still had jobs. They just had different jobs. They learned different skills. We evolved our skill sets. We evolved what was needed in the job market. The economy changed. What became more valuable was different. And so I think that is what is going to happen. And I don't think it's that there's doesn't need to be the fear of having work. It's the fear of, will the work I do right now still be the work I do in 10 years? And I think the answer to that is probably there, for not everybody will it be.
Yeah, it might depend on the sector that you're in. Because
Hmm.
I know in social services, for example, I know um, AI is very helpful with planning, right? Let's say with regards to counseling,
Yeah.
right? It's helpful in terms of planning and generating ideas. But and I know people actually use AI right now as their counselor. Um, but I and in my opinion, again, it's going to go far one way and people are going to come back because I don't think you can ever really replace person in that way. So I think it depends on the sector that we're talking
Oh,
about.
yeah, 100%. Like I think definitely for things like that, like where they are very much the way that I always describe it is when where there needs to be a level of empathy, that those are the skills, those are the jobs that I think will stay 100% intact. And even if they shift and evolve slightly in terms of how they're done. But I look at something a friend of mine who is in the space, who is does actually have a computer programming degree, like is a developer, no longer codes himself. He uses AI to code, and he has built and exited a couple of companies. And he's like, I'll never code again. He's like, why would I do that? He's like, I can do what used to take me 3 months with a team of 10 by myself in a day, and it's better than it would have been in 3 months. So he's like, why would I ever do that again? But there isn't a people aspect in that. So in that case, like, again, it's not saying again, it's just that skill set is not needed. And now it's like, okay, what does that evolve to? What does that become? And so I think that's where it's like, but there's not really empathy needed. He's putting the inputs into the AI and telling it what to do, which is what he used to do with humans. His whole point is, he's like, the AI doesn't fight back. He's like, I don't have to deal with the people personalities of it, which again, I think that's where like the questions start to come in, is then what does that look like? Does that create I was speaking at a conference a couple weeks ago, and it was on like how AI will what AI will do in the sales world. And I was talking about, the fact that I think AI will eliminate poor salespeople, because if I'm only doing it from a transactional standpoint, I might as well do that on computer. Um, I think it's going to force people to elevate their actual ability to be consultative. But at the same time, I look at things like emails, and if I read an email that I know was written with AI, because I can tell when it's written with AI 100% of the time. And when I read that, I go, it drops the credibility that I feel for that person. I don't actually feel like they're credible as a salesperson. And so it's like looking at those things, I think it's going to adjust how we do things quite significantly. And those are the types of things that I think people need to be thinking about, is how do I keep myself relevant?
There was something you said, and I wanted to comment on it, but it's come and gone. It'll come back. It'll come back.
They'll come back. Yeah. Email, credibility.
No, it was more about the oh, so when I'm not so you said something about your friend doesn't have to have the conversation with people
Mm.
back and forth or the
Yep.
arguments or anything like that. And I find that interesting because we're losing the skill, the ability to be able to have constructive conversation and disagreement because we don't have to. So we don't have to if I just use AI.
Yeah.
But then how do you have relationship with people? How do you practice those skills? That's where
Yeah.
I'm coming from with it.
Yeah. No, and I don't think where you're coming from. Um, I think he would tell you he doesn't want to have those skills. But just full transparency. I think and I do think for a number of people, like he would deem himself an introvert. He's like, this is fantastic. I don't have to deal with people. Because it's not where he gets his it's not what he loves. So I think there are some people in the world who that's that piece, right? Like where the introverts of the world gonna love some of these things. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, but I think it just speaks to why um like learning and growing in that area will become more valuable and will become more credible, because the people who choose to excel at those skills are going to become more valuable because there's probably going to be less of them,
Hmm.
which isn't a bad thing. Like, I think that's an opportunity. It's like, why should people be developing their emotional intelligence right now? Why? Because those are going to be the skills of the future.
Yeah. 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 That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
Um,
So I don't know. It's an interesting, like, it's a really interesting space. And of course, I'm surrounded by a lot of people in tech, right? Like, so I have a lot of coaching clients that are in the tech space. I have a lot of friends in the tech space. I worked in the tech space. So it's really interesting when you have conversations with people in the tech space, because they just have, it's interesting to watch. They're asking very different questions than the average person, because they're not asking will it be there, they're asking how will it change things, like what will look different, because the assumption is it's going to be in everything. So what does that change, what does that make look different? And I think those are really the powerful questions that we should always be asking, whether about AI or about, like, what does the world look differently if we have equal leadership? What looks differently in the world if, like, it's like asking those what if questions is, and those, like, and questions is where the power lives. Like, that's where there's so much opportunity.
yeah. Yeah. AI is scary for people. Um, it's also opportunity. I know I love it in terms of it helps it because I like to build curriculum. I love doing that stuff. And it has something that would take me weeks, takes me hours. And but then of course there's the back and forth thing and conversating with it and all of those kinds of things. Developing relationship with your AI agent. But it's helpful that way. However, there are people that also take it a little too far, right? And use it a lot for their as companion, as the
Mm,
replacement for people. They talk to their AI like it's a person, and
yeah.
it's not.
So I guess from your social work side of things, why, like, what do you think, like, why do you think somebody would do that? What would lead to somebody, and I know that's a probably a really big question and probably doesn't have a black and white answer, but like I just look at it and go, okay, so why would somebody choose AI over a human? What would lead to that?
Less risk. There's
Okay.
less risk, right? Like when you AI is designed to basically tell you what you want to hear, unless you specifically ask it to critique you or to tell you the truth or opposing idea or something like that. But the way it's designed is it tells you and it kind of feeds into what it believes you want to hear and what you and what how it thinks that you want to feel,
Yeah.
right? And so I think people like that because there's less risk of someone hurting their feelings, of AI hurting their feelings, because people hate to be uncomfortable. That's one thing that I'm really noticing with people is they hate that uncomfortable feeling. It's
Hmm.
become where when people feel uncomfortable, it's turning into I'm not safe. It's like, well, are you not safe or are you uncomfortable? Which one is it? Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing. So I think it's less risk to develop a relationship with AI than it is with a person.
So, okay, so recognizing that that's one of the things, like, I think this then becomes, what's the conversation? Like, this to me is where the magic happens, right? Is because it's this becomes, in my brain, it becomes like a sales issue. So how do social workers sell people on the fact of why they should still see a human versus communicating with AI? Like, what's the sales pitch? Because it's no longer going to, and again, I think this is how it challenges people to raise their game. Because if I am a shitty social worker, AI is good enough. Like, but it's true, Jen. I've seen some shitty social workers in my day. Like, I have seen so many therapists over my lifespan, and there are some really bad ones out there. And so I go, well, you're out.
Okay. Well, the thing, AI will never be able to read. Well, I shouldn't say never. I should not say never, but but to be able to read someone's body language, to
Yes,
see like when, because I can type anything in and I could be right, but I
yeah,
could be saying, I'm so happy right now, right?
100%. Yeah,
And AI is not going to know, whereas a person in front of you is going to be like, you're saying you're happy, but your body language is telling me something else.
yeah. Yeah,
Right.
so I think uh, so if you think about it, right? Like, but if you think about what are the things that make somebody an incredible therapist, like if we kind of lean into the therapy side of things and think about what are the things that make somebody an incredible therapist that a human can do that AI can't do, it's that they can't read body language. What else would be in that would be in that space?
the empathy the
Hmm.
empathy and then there's also the nuances, right? Because you input something into AI and it spits something out, but when you have especially a therapist who has a lot of experience, there's nuances. So there's things that directions that you might go that AI might miss because it's looking at the what you're typing in and the input that you're putting in, and it's looking at the history of what you've put in,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't necessarily understand the family. His well, the reason why I go back and forth a little bit here is because when you input into AI certain things, then it can spit out a lot of different things. I know that I have there's platforms for therapists that you can put things in and then it spits out different things to consider. And
Mm,
I've actually found it quite helpful because there's no way one person can know everything. So I find
yeah.
it very helpful, but I don't think that should be used to do therapy. Like if I'm talking to the computer and just speaking to it, I don't know. And I'm biased. I'm going to say it right now. I'm biased because I am a therapist.
Well, no, but I think, but I totally agree with you, right? But I think this is to me where bad therapists are gonna be at risk because if they're not observational, if they don't ask good questions, if they don't do their research and prepare in advance, like those are the types of things that I think start to. I hope that for a lot of people, AI causes them to raise their game, and I don't see that as a bad thing. I think
No,
it's
no,
like
it's not a
an
bad
underwritten accountability
It's
that
not a bad thing at all. My concern is for like the not very experienced therapists
Mhm.
that are newly coming out and might be using AI for their supervision,
Yeah.
or it could be people who that don't have the money to pay a therapist, right? And they need help, and so they go onto AI. I mean, we heard a story. I just heard a story the other day of how AI supported someone in dying by suicide. So it's tricky. It's tricky
Mhm.
when you're dealing with people. And I get that AI can do a lot of great things, but there's the other side of it too.
Well, and I think this is where, like, I think what we're about to see a lot more of is like the what is the word? Ethics side of AI, right? Like there's different AI platforms that are more ethical than other AI platforms. Like the reality is ChatGPT is actually one of the least ethical platforms. So there are platforms that are more ethical and that operate from a more ethical standpoint. And so that I think we'll start to see laws. We'll start to see things that will hopefully, like there'll be some regulations around things that I think we'll start to see more of. We were having a conversation yesterday in a meeting that I was in, about like using AI for minutes. And we were just talking about, like one of the things for a lot of Canadian companies, sovereign clouds are really important, and sovereign servers. And so, but we were talking about the fact that, we, as much as these organizations are telling us that they're not storing our data, we have to assume they're using the data to train. And if you're silly enough to not make that assumption, then that's your own naivety, because until there is, like, at this point, all the data is going in. So if we truly want to believe that they're not using that data, that's silly. They are. And so I think personally, that's one of the biggest things that AI opens up from a skill standpoint, is now it's more critical than ever to teach people things like critical thinking. How do we think without AI being the only source of thought? How do we discern? How do we ensure that we're not just being fed our own opinions on things? Like, to me, those are the types of things that become more and more critical in this landscape.
You can practice that with AI. I think you need people. People are extremely unpredictable. They're predictable but unpredictable at the same time. And in order to be able to really understand, to be able to think critically, to be able to disagree respectfully, all of it takes practice. You got to practice it with someone. And
Yeah.
if we're spending all of our time in front of a computer or in front of with AI, we can't truly practice that.
Well, yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with you on that, but where does it get taught now? Is that a school responsibility? Is that a workplace responsibility? Like, I think if we're teaching them once they hit a workplace, we're probably too late. Like, how do we teach this skill now? Because it's something that is going to need to be intentionally done, because the average workplace is not set up to teach critical thinking.
It's supposed to be done in school. It's supposed to be
I
done.
promise you it's not done in school.
Well, no, and I'm not saying formally. I'm saying in terms of developing relationships with people. So it's the schoolyard fights. It's the interactions you have with people. That's where most of the learning happens. That's why play is so very important, because you learn so much in play with other people.
Yeah. But Jen, we work with workplaces all the time. The skill is not there. So it's not being taught in school. And I can tell you, it, like, legitimately, I have the same conversations with employers in Africa as I have with employers in Canada about young people entering the workplace, that they don't have these skills. So it's somehow being lost somewhere. And I think, again, we've got to step back and go, where is this being lost? Like, have we regulated the schoolyards too much?
Well, could it be lost because we are in this technological world now? Like, could that be why it's being lost?
I think it's been lost longer than that, though. I feel like we've bubble wrapped our kids, and
But that's what I
I
mean. Because when if you think about it, like our generation of like our children, they grew up with computers and iPads and all of those kinds of things, and they're the ones entering the workforce. So is
mm,
is that the generation that you're talking about?
nah, it's the kids just before they would have grown up with them, but it would have yeah, they would have grown up with them, but not like the current I'm talking about even like the 30-year-olds, the like
So
24
the
to
30 year
30.
olds So
They would have
yeah,
had
the
computers
90s, the ones born in the 90s and the 2000s.
early 2000s. Yeah.
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 Yeah, so we're
They would
talking
have
about the
had
same thing.
yeah, they would have had computers, but they wouldn't have had technology like it is today.
So if you think of when we were young, we did not have even the cell phone,
No.
right? We had to problem solve. Let's look at the phone, right? If I wanted to call you and you weren't home, then I would have to either go to your house, like walk to your house, go to your house, whatever, or wait until you were home and could pick up the phone.
There's a
Now,
ton of research around social media being the demise of anybody born in that era. Like social media, there's a direct correlation around the world around 2012, which Instagram started in 2010, I think, or 2008, somewhere around there. There's a direct correlation internationally, not just in North America, in every country, including like third world countries, where at the introduction of social media and Instagram and suicide rates, like it literally goes like this. Suicide had been dropping significantly for years, and then the introduction of Instagram and suicide rates started to go like this. And it's not a North America thing, it is around the world.
so you've kind of just proven my point, right? That era has been inundated with social media, AI, all of these things, right, that have prevented them from being able to interact with people, with real people.
Yes.
So we're saying the same thing.
Oh yeah, I'm not disagreeing. I just mean like AI wasn't, that era didn't grow up with AI. AI is only a few
Not
years
with
old.
AI. No, not with AI
Um,
specifically.
but yeah, with social media, 100%. But again, where's the issue? The issue right now, I saw a speaker talk about it at an event a few months ago for a mental health program, and it was a really interesting conversation because they were talking about mental health and social media and youth in particular, and like Australia is currently playing around with this whole like should there be a social media ban, and there's all these conversations about social media in school and all of these things, and her opinion on it was that you don't like it, banning things is not the way to go. Oh, sorry, her opinion on it is that you can make it illegal, because there were parents saying, well, we don't want to make it illegal because then the kids won't talk to us about it. But her point was alcohol's always been illegal, drugs have always been illegal, and parents have language on how to have those conversations with their kids. And so it's like we need to start looking at it similarly to how we've always looked at sort of alcohol and drugs, in the fact that we need to teach how to use it safely, how to do it with protection, like, and that it, yes, there are good things, like alcohol is not the root of all evil, but there are ways that it can be done overused or and used safely and things like that, and there's rules around it, and here's what we do. And she's like, this, the debate needs to be looked at differently. She's like, we need to be looking at it like alcohol.
I would agree with that if adults knew how to use it safely as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the blind teaching the blind. I don't know if I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust. I don't know if I would trust anybody. Well, who knows? Yeah. It's an interesting thought, and I see where she would be going with that. But what is safely? Like, how do you use it safely? Would be my
Yeah.
question, and who's determining that?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing with it though, right, is again, it's not going anywhere. So is that where we need to be spending our time? is figuring out what does safety look like.
Yeah. Interesting topic. Interesting topic. So I am curious as to what our listeners think about this. What are your thoughts on AI? What are your thoughts on even social media and how it's impacting all of us?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good, I think, yeah, like, and maybe, I don't know, I think we could have a very curious conversation around how people think it should be managed. But yeah, I guess, and we could do a simple poll even around like AI, love it or hate it, scared of it, embracing it. Lots of options.
Is there somewhere in the middle? It's interesting. As humans, we tend to do things in excess and then scale back. It's like throw ourselves in and then scale back. Throw ourselves in and scale. It's interesting.
We have
Interesting.
very short
Anyways,
memories in the grand scheme of things.
yeah. We repeat things. We're patterned. That's
Mm-hmm.
why we repeat things over and over and over and over, just in different ways.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, well, that's it for today. Thank you so
Okay.
much for being with us. I'm Jen Matwawana,
And I am Melissa Maloney.
and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.